You need to know this. Happy anniversary, Occupy Wall Street. Today marks 1 month since people began camping out in Lower Manhattan to protest Wall Street's high crimes and disastrous influence on our economy. And in that month, this movement has transformed into an unstoppable force, occupying not just New York City, but the entire planet. Over the weekend, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in Europe, South America, and Asia in solidarity with the Occupy Wall Street movement. In Rome, demonstrations turned violent as police cars at a government building were torched, causing over $1 million damage. Here in the United States, where protests have remained peaceful despite ongoing brutal police crackdowns, tens of thousands of people filled Times Square this weekend in New York City, and tens of thousands more occupied hundreds of cities across the country. And as we've seen each day, there were also mass arrests. 175 people arrested in Chicago for engaging in civil disobedience. 70 were arrested in New York City's Times Square. Nearly 100 people arrested in Arizona. A couple dozen more arrested in Denver. And here in the nation's capital, Princeton professor Cornel West joined nearly 20 other people in getting arrested in front of the Supreme Court as they were protesting the High Court's decision to hand our elections over to transnational corporations in last year's Citizens United case. Despite the arrests, the movement continues to grow and gain support, and perhaps more importantly, fundraise. The original and largest occupation in New York's Zuccotti Park just revealed that it has raised more than $300,000 in donations through its websites and through passers-by. Not a bad haul. Now for a roundup on what happened this weekend and where the movement, the Occupy movement in general, goes next. I'm joined by Sarah Jaffe in New York. She's an associate editor at alternate.org. And from Chicago, Daniel Masoglia, press liaison for Occupy Chicago, and Brent Schulte, participant in Occupy Chicago, one of the 175 people arrested Saturday. And joining me here in the studios in D.C., Anthony Allen, participant and member of the Welcoming Committee with Occupy D.C. Welcome to all of you. I hope I haven't mangled anybody's name too badly. If so, please correct me. Let me start out. I'm curious, first of all, in fact, with Sarah, what personally has been your big lesson out of this?
My big lesson out of it is that I was way too cynical. I went down to the Zuccotti Park protest on day 5 of the occupation, and I had sort of been another march, another whatever, won't make a difference. And after 5 days, the infrastructure in there had blown my mind. And a month later, it's all over the world, 900 protests and some odd in different countries. I mean, I didn't think it could happen.
Yeah, and it certainly is. I'm curious, Daniel and Britt in Chicago, well, first of all, can you just give us an update on what's going on in Chicago? We're hearing about police crackdowns there.
This past Saturday, we've been occupying for 23 days now, since September 23rd. This past Saturday, we turned out a couple thousand people to march from our headquarters at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago to occupy the horse statue at Michigan and Congress, where we pitched 25 some odd tents and engaged in peaceful resistance while the police, stood by. And Britt can tell you a little bit.
Okay. Britt? Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely an inspiring and motivating time. We formed human chains, human links, in order to defend our encampment and to stand up for our civil rights, for peaceful assembly, peaceful protest. And I felt it was one of the more heartening experiences as an activist, because so many folks in my generation don't exactly know what it is like to put yourself on a line and to actually defend those rights and to be arrested wrongfully for defending those rights. And so we were taken away, 175 of us, and for exercising our freedom of speech and right to assemble. And I had some of the most amazing conversations of my life.
That's fascinating. We missed your very last word, but I think we got the sense of it. Amazing conversations of your life. Anthony, you're here in D.C. And I'm curious, how are things going in McPherson Square? What's going on there?
Things are going great. We had our largest march to date on Saturday. We had roughly about 400 plus people. In regards to the individuals who are actually staying over, we almost doubled between Thursday and today. So the movement is really catching steam. We're getting individuals from the local D.C. area, DMV. We're also getting individuals from New York, and Occupy Wall Street are coming down. We're also getting individuals coming up from the South. So, of course, we're in the nation's capital, so people are going to gravitate here regardless. But I'd say the good thing is our encampment is probably about 50% of people who are actually residents of the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area.
Local folks who
exactly.
are, of course, saying this is our place.
Yes, and this is pretty unique for D.C. because a lot of times it's national people coming in.
Sure, because it's the nation's capital.
Exactly.
You kind of expect that. How is D.C. trying to, Occupy D.C. trying to bring new people in? Can you walk us through how the organization works?
Sure. We're doing multiple efforts. We have a strong web presence. Actually, also this week, we did a campaign where we went out to the neighborhoods, letting individuals know about the occupation movements that were taking place on Saturday. So we're doing a lot of multiple outreach programs.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And I'm curious, Sarah, in New York City, a new Quinnipiac poll, I never quite say it right, has found that 67% of New Yorkers, even a majority of Republicans, both clearly understand the message of the 99% movement, and that's with no official message having been put out, but you know, perhaps the Howard Beale, you know, we're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore message, but say that they perfectly understand the message and agree with it and think it should not be stopped by force. So obviously, so far this is working. In your opinion, and being there at you know, the epicenter, the place where it began and where it's, and certainly the belly of the beast, I mean, Wall Street there, what could make it better and what could blow it up?
What could make it better? You know, I think we're doing pretty well. What could make it better is maybe if the police stopped arresting people. I don't think we're going to get that lucky. But the rumors that I'm hearing on the ground are that Friday morning was the last chance that Bloomberg had to get rid of the actual camp. That after he backed down there, there's really no way they can now come in and clear it, and especially after this poll came out today, like you said. What could blow it up? I mean, there's the usual things that blow up any sort of movement, I guess. I don't want to start saying that there's going to be infighting, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. I think right now we have something growing that has a really, like you said, the 99% message is the most clear and the most sort of spontaneous populist message that this country has seen in a really, really long time. And it's catching on with people. In New York, we know all about inequality here in New York. We know about the 1%. Mayor Bloomberg is the 1%. We know all about Wall Street because we see them on the train or on the street. They drive by us in their fancy cars while we're taking the train, more likely. We know these things here in New York. So it's not surprising at all that 67% of the city is in support of this. 67% of the city can barely pay our rent.
Yeah. Britt, I'm curious, what's the infrastructure in Chicago, and is it, you know, in New York they've sort of reached a rapprochement, I suppose, with the mayor and with the company that owns the property, at least an uneasy truce. What's the situation in Chicago?
Well, we're still building, we're still developing and growing, but we are entering into some negotiations to try to figure out where our home can be permanently, because we're not going anywhere. We're in it for the long haul. While we do take that stand to defend our civil rights, if need be, we are prepared to do that, but we also realize that that is unsustainable. We can't have 175 of us arrested every evening. So we are prepared to take those steps, but we are currently in negotiations to figure out where our home will be and where to defend it from there.
And the way we've gone as far as internal organization, we've had a system of committee too complex emerge sort of organically to help handle the day-to-day tasks of the movement. Outreach, press, education. We've been holding teach-ins at various locations in Chicago and elsewhere. Arts committees that are actively engaging local venues to try to put on benefit shows and really just spread the word however possible. And the sort of beautiful thing about it is that it all comes down to our consensus. That you know, we lead from within ourselves. We lead together. We lead as not a leaderless movement, but as a movement of leaders together on the vanguard of the sweeping social change that is coming across this planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well said. Anthony, what's the logistical situation here with Zuccotti Park? Or I mean with McPherson Square.
McPherson Square, yes. Well, the D.C. police have been very accommodating with us. From day one, there's some soft legal codes that we were able to take advantage of. So we were fortunate, unlike Chicago, where they're searching for a home. We've had a permanent home from day one. So in that aspect, we've been able to set up camp relatively quickly and relatively expand without having the issues that some of the other in Chicago and Boston and some of the other cities and locations are having. And I'd also say in regards to the infrastructure, the beautiful thing about this movement is we're all operating in the same form and fashion. So we're all operating in consensus. We all have the same teams. We all have the same committees. And so that's why there is really a lot of solidarity within the movement, because whether if you go from New York to Chicago to LA to wherever, you're going to experience a very similar process in how we do things and how we get things done.
Right. And it seems like it's based on classic anarchist principles, and I don't mean that in the negative context. I mean that in the classical political context of everybody has a say.
Everyone has a say, and they said it perfectly. You know, it's not that we're without leaders. We are all leaders, right. And it's your responsibility to step up, and if something needs to get done, do it.
Yeah, that's great. Anthony, Daniel, Britt, Sarah, thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Thom.
Thank you. On the political side, as people across the world speak out against Wall Street banksters, Mitt Romney is working hard to be their guy. According to the latest campaign finance reports, Mitt Romney is drastically outpacing President Obama when it comes to fundraising on Wall Street, raising more than 5 times as much bankster cash as the president. He's doubling down on Wall Street, hoping the banksters will catapult him into the White House, while the rest of the world is shouting about how Romney's banksters are destroying everything from economies to environments to nations. Another sign of just how out of touch Republicans are from the other 99% of us.